Audio sucks for the first part of this. I apologize for that. I didn't have my mic plugged in. Nobody cares about Web3, or the people who don't care about Web3, which is most people, really don't care about it, to the extent that they're oblivious to it. But Web3 is how AI is going to be trained in a way that, like, right now AI is very cute. The spookier, more sophisticated version of AI that's more like a global superorganism will be trained by all of our little signals on the blockchain. Move everything to Web3 in order to get those signals to train AI. Look at how Sam Altman of OpenAI also has another very popular or infamous project, WorldCoin, or ticker WLD, where it's an identity project on blockchain. So it's giving the world wallets so we can know who the population is and how they can be useful to us. That's a use case that I'm speculating on. Obviously, maybe WorldCoin is totally innocuous. In some ways, everything I'm talking about that I'm being chicken little about, some facet of it is absolutely totally fine. But blockchain Web3 is a digital control system. Obviously, there are privacy concerns that are good, but it's going to become more and more impossible to be anonymous. That's going to be not safe. It's going to be like you're unscannable in Idiocracy. And the more online you are, the more you can be subtly controlled and nudged in a way that you can still be yourself, uniquely yourself. But as long as there's a digital twin of you, which there is on social media, that's the metaverse. That's our new economy. That's our economy. Then you can be nudged. You can be served content to get you to show a reaction, or you can be served content according to your past behavior that could augment your behavior or direct it in the future. Something we talk about in astrology is like, if you are at the helm of a ship and you turn the wheel just a centimeter, you'll be in a very different place than you would be if you hadn't turned the wheel at all. And that's cybernetics. The helm, it's steering things subtly, but making the entities being steered, any sentient beings being steered, feel as though it was their idea. And you can look at the work of Stafford Beer, who is the father of cybernetics, who says just that. Like, it's not about like iron-fisted or ham-fisted control. It's about subtly guiding things in the right direction. You can control everything this way. So in this like post-blockchain conference moment, Web3 is not digital utopia. There's plenty of trouble with Web3, like the same amount of trouble as there is with Web2, because the internet is a military technology. I'm not against it. I use it. It's fun. I was born in this time where I'm using the internet. But cryptocurrency is not magical freedom money. If you don't understand why it is not magical freedom money, you can go back and watch the tech part of most of my videos, or my special report, or my intro to cryptocurrency video, or, which isn't called that right now, it's called something else, or my Jupiter and Gemini video. Anyway, all this stuff that I keep going on about, it's not really a thing to fight against, it's just a thing to be aware of. If you have awareness of your place in a system, or that you are in a game, the world's turning into a game. You're being put on a game board. If you're aware of that, then you can maybe have some more control over your life or something, if that's even a thing at all. Anyway, there's a Ram Dass quote that's, you have to pretend that you need to take responsibility for your choices. It's necessary that you come into that mindset. However, your dharma, your karma is it's the definition of karma. It's the product of everything that came before you, like all of history. So you might not have control over it at all. But if you're watching this, then you get to be a person who understands what social media, Web3, cryptocurrency is. It's not a freedom thing. It's not a magical, rebellious, anarchist thing. You being able to be nudged and plucked out for everything that you're categorized with, all of your behavior that's logged permanently, like on social media, for instance, that's a very good example. It is of great use to training artificial intelligence, because one thing that's being like tabled in terms of growing a global superorganism, or AGI, or whatever, is the idea of teaming, swarming. Sephora Kids is a good example, whether or not that was intentionally engineered. It's a very good example of swarming, teaming. Because your intelligence is emergent. It's not programmed. There's an element of chaos. There's an element of letting go. Anyway, that's a tirade. So if you're there's US election stuff happening, and if you're a person who bought the whole, not that I'm into any candidate or even truly believe whatever, whoever becomes the president of the United States, it doesn't matter. It truly doesn't matter who it is. I don't believe any of the three prominent candidates right now. I don't believe that there would actually be any kind of regime change, if that makes sense. Anyway, the Kennedy-Shanahan campaign was definitely a campaign, but it was more of a campaign to inure you to blockchain and Web3 as this amazing, awesome thing that you're so excited to adopt, instead of like a thing that you're going to have to adopt. Like, you're going to adopt it no matter what. You're not going to stay out of it. Just like in the same way that in the 2000s, you aren't going to get out of having a cell phone. Even the longest holdouts, they got one. Just the world. You have to learn to use it in a way that doesn't negate your intelligence or your heart. And if you're sad that there's, I don't know if anybody watching this is actually buys it or is sad about, I don't think Robert F. Kennedy is quite ever going to get Bernie Sanders close. So I don't know why I'm talking about politics. Anyway, the thing is, you're going to get all the stuff that he's pitching anyway. It's all coming anyway. So don't worry. His campaign is an ad campaign for blockchain and Web3, and that's digital IDs. All these things, they're good things about this stuff. I'm not like raising my fist or my pitchfork or whatever, even though it sounds like it sometimes. Okay, so let's talk about why Aquarius is technology. I talk about this a lot, but I'm going to talk about it again. Carrying water is heavy and burdensome. It requires great strength, dedication. Someone's got to do it, responsibility. So setting up a technology to bring the water to your village is Aquarius. And there are other versions of technology, like there are tools and like communication tools, actual physical tools to work with the material world. Those things are cute and very useful. But the water technology, the aqueduct specifically, is infrastructure. It's technology for the people. There's an element of the greater good or serving the collective that goes along with it. So that's why Aquarius signifies technology, and specifically utopian technologies, like the way things could be, which is very like Web3. If writing itself and code is Gemini, Web3 infrastructure is Aquarius. It's won't the world be great this way? And Pluto is corruption. Pluto is transiting Aquarius right now. Pluto is corruption. There's the idea with Web3 and cryptocurrency that it's for you, it's for the people, the stodgy old FCC or whatever, the central bank, the regulators. We're winning the fight. They're here to stamp it out. But really, all of these great power structures, the huge tech companies, the infrastructure that's in place, Web3 and cryptocurrency serves these structures very well. There will be a bit of a sea change with what characters are more prominent, but there won't be much of a sea change in terms of what that means for you. Like some people, there'll be like some people benefiting and other people who used to benefit not. But the utopian thing is a story that's being served. It's not like the little guy. Web3, blockchain, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency is not the little guy fighting the big guy. All of it has been set up by the big giant, which is interesting because one metaphor for Aquarius is the giant. That's happening with the outside-in robot, ubiquitous sensing, the global superorganism. It's one being that is all of us, but is still one being, a giant. All of this was set up by the giant, and we're like throwing little blow darts at it, and we're like doing these cryptocurrency conferences, thinking that we're fighting a good fight, but it's not a fight at all. It's a thing that's being served to you. I got really excited. Oh my God. Testing. Okay, sorry, I realized I didn't have my mic plugged in. I got a little bit excited when I saw this tweet because I was like, oh, great, cool. Edward Snowden is going to tell us that blockchain is just here to train AI and to subtly control the world through signals intelligence until it crumbles. However, this is just about how, I think basically this clip, which I can link the tweet below if you want or if you request it. It's just talking about how everything on the blockchain is public, so we need a way to secure it. So that's digital IDs. So this Giga Gemini is here to tell us we need a digital ID, which is a form of a digital twin. This should give you pause about your opinions on Bitcoin, because he's not talking about what it is. He's not taking, from what I understand about all of this technology, he's not taking the position that I would expect him to, or that I have been like, and if I didn't know all this stuff, I'd be like, oh, this is insider information. He's taking the position I expect him to. But now that I know too much, it's too weird that Edward Snowden's not talking about it, right? So I also put a quick screenshot of Edward Snowden at 28 minutes, 37 seconds of my Jupiter in Gemini video, which you can watch. It's a few videos down, or it's in the description. We're coming up on the Jupiter return of the Edward Snowden reveal or whistleblowing incident. And when that happened, both Jupiter and Mars were in Gemini, as they are right now. But I think the information here is that, yeah, look, there's Edward Snowden. I don't know what else is going to happen. It also counts as Russia stuff. But a takeaway for me is that, obviously, this isn't quite what we think it is. And if you want to do good propaganda, you have agents in the world that you get people to trust or love or adore, then you can use them to communicate whatever you want. Anyway, I'm going to read this quote from the Picatrix. And he's not talking about Pluto in this quote. He's talking about just corruption itself. But it applies to Pluto because that's what Pluto is. The writer of the Picatrix didn't know Pluto existed, maybe. Anyway, corruption does not enter into apparent things for the purpose of destroying them. It goes deep into things that are not apparent and corrupts them in a way that is not apparent.
We are winning, ladies and gentlemen. But we haven't won. And so we have to make sure that we don't get cocky.
That was slick. Didn't that feel slick to you? Maybe it didn't. Maybe it felt perfectly. But like, why? I don't understand why he wouldn't understand these things about Bitcoin. And then if he does understand them, why is he not talking about them? So he's either an idiot but he's not, or being disingenuous. There's another significant Web3 initiative that's positioning itself as little tech, and it's along the same lines. Pluto is in Aquarius. Pluto corrupts. Aquarius is the infrastructure. Web3 is infrastructure. Of course, our water and gas and resources are subject to infrastructure, and Pluto corrupts. An app called Posh has raised $22 million. And it's working to be the TikTok of social engagement, which sounds fun on the one hand. But the thing I noticed, it's not really a but, it's just an and. Secure and share your tickets in your digital wallet. So we already have digital wallets. That's a digital ID. It's already a thing. But this company has raised $22 million to track everybody's interest in events. Because if it's free, you're the product. This week or last week, I posted a short saying NFTs are the future of property law, and they are. It doesn't matter if you want to raise your fist and not understand what I'm talking about and be like, I hate NFTs, they're dumb. You don't know what they are. I'm telling you, this is what they are. The future of property law. The dumb JPEG thing is when you want to downplay the importance of something, you offer it as subject to ridicule. But there's huge infrastructure being built in this. And I don't know if Posh is a blockchain app. It doesn't look like it from what I can see. But it's very poised to integrate with Web3 when the time comes, if it's like a long-lasting company. And one thing about NFTs that's going to be a thing, because it is property law, but it's also like your little badges, because a certificate or a little piece of art that you own is like status. So NFTs are a thing to show status and ownership together. Status is ownership. Ownership is status. All of it is NFTs. This is what I've been talking about in regards to social impact bond markets. This is Polymarket. I am not shilling for it. The premise is that you bet on your beliefs. So this is going to be the whole world moving forward. Everything, again, I don't think this has anything to do with blockchain. I'm not sure. I didn't look into it that far. But the whole economy, now that AI has taken all the jobs, is about these little like decision architectures and betting and voting on every single thing. So it will change the nature of voting. It will change the nature of investment because everybody is going to be an investor. And so that's what this is. This example is just like popular culture and politics stuff. But social impact bonds, which have been going on since like 2008, they were introduced as Pluto entered Capricorn. We're seeing them come to fruition now. They're more on the surface. This is signals intelligence. This is partially how AI is trained. It's partially dovetails with predictive policing. And social impact bond markets are basically just this, but with philanthropy. Like a group of underprivileged children, I'm going to bet no that they're not going to get jobs that put them above the poverty line or something. I can short a group of underprivileged children. That's what social impact bond markets are. A part of the premise is good. We need to measure the impact. If we give money to something, we need to see if it worked. But then when we look at Sam Altman and WorldCoin, for instance, he did a study about UBI, about giving people universal basic income, which can also be referred to as community currency. And that he got a positive result from that. But keep in mind, he runs an AI company and a blockchain digital identity company. And as we understand blockchain, the signals harvested from blockchain apps are a part of what teaches AI. And you can give people money but with no strings attached, as in his study, but the string that is attached is like everything you do with the money is tracked. And you might have consequences later for how you spent that money because everything you do is put on a permanent record. And that's what blockchain digital identity is. And WorldCoin is blockchain digital identity. Anyway, Polymarket was like fined by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, and then a few months later, Polymarket appointed a former commissioner of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. So that's interesting. And then other investors include Vitalik Buterin, who founded Ethereum. So the biggest blockchain thing you can build on. It's the most programmable. So even if it's not like a blockchain thing now, it totally can be built on Ethereum. And then can you imagine this sort of dashboard? But it's like your life. Will they eat a grilled cheese sandwich? Will they take a shower? Will they work out today? So everybody could have a dashboard like this. And then if you need money, you need investors. It's like a combination, stock market and just betting on your life. Anyway, also a venture capital firm founded by Peter Thiel has invested in this, who's a very all about getting the data on everyone, all about the signals intelligence. Apple Maps has launched a public web version of its app. You can't sign into iCloud and use it. So you can't use Apple Maps on the web while signed into your iCloud account, but you can now use Apple Maps on the web. And Proton released a self-custody Bitcoin wallet. So that's a digital ID. That's what a Bitcoin wallet is. It only supports Bitcoin, but that's just for now. It says it will add support for other currencies in the future. So Proton is offering a digital ID. And that's a place for your cryptocurrencies and your NFTs. It's for tokens of all kinds, fungible and non-fungible. And then watch my special report on Web3 mass adoption connected to hacking and the vulnerability of large networks and critical infrastructures. This week, things are getting annoying. Mercury is stationing retrograde at the end of the week. So that's Sunday, as you can see, which is also the dark moon. So we have a waning moon. We're like finishing up things, we're expending energy, but things are getting glitchy. And as I always say, I find the period before Mercury stations, whilst Mercury is in shadow, which is now the glitchiest for me. But it depends on your relationship with Mercury. So Mercury doesn't station until the very end of the week. It's the last aspect I'll talk about, but it applies to all of this week. You can consider it Mercury is stationing. So if you're in a Mercury ruled year, if you're a Mercury ruled person, the messenger of the gods definitely has a message, and that message might change in a few weeks when Mercury stations direct. But it's a very like intensely mercurial time and mostly wrought with like things aren't what they seem. Things aren't really probably going to ultimately go how you think they're going right now. The first part of Monday is primarily concerned with, I'm going to say, world building. It's the moon in Taurus, the exalted moon, connecting with outer planets. So there's like a broad perspective, but the moon manifests and activates, and it's in an earth sign, and it's in the earth sign it likes best. Accomplishing physical things, like approaching practical matters that have broad implications the first part of the day, and then the second part of the day gets much more dynamic when the moon moves into Gemini. The moon trines Pluto and squares Mercury, which is stationing. So the second half of Monday is going to be much more busy and probably a little annoying or glitchy. And that might be frustrating because we also have early in the morning on Tuesday, 2 a.m. Pacific, the moon conjoins Mars in Gemini. So the second half of Monday is likely to be like glitchy, busy, fast-paced, and probably frustrating. And whereas the first half of Monday is like world building, accomplishing the things to get the project done, the second part is more about like relationship and tech interaction, which the second half of Monday is also just like too hot. It's with the moon squaring its ruler Mercury, even though it's exalted, and then applying to Mars. It seems volatile. On Tuesday, we're mostly past that, And Tuesday's a little more optimistic, although still busy and Mercury ruled with Mercury stationing. So busy, glitchy. The moon is applying to Jupiter in Gemini, which is also has demonstrated that it has been pretty glitchy itself on its own. So there might be like, the outlook might be good, but it might like be all for nothing or pointless, like a bunch of pointless interactions, even though you're having fun. Or like insights from that day might turn out to be not quite right, even though you had fun and they seem promising. And the moon, after about late afternoon Pacific time, around 4 p.m. Pacific, after the moon conjoins Jupiter, then the moon is applying to a square with Saturn into the night. The second half of Tuesday might be a little more of a downer or not quite as dynamic. There might be you might experience a roadblock of some kind on Tuesday. There's wanting to be chatty and have fun, but then there's in the spiritual and biological realm that you must take care of, that you're responsible for, or that somebody else is responsible for and they can't chat with you. On Wednesday, most of the day, Wednesday's nice. Like a nice morning with the moon sextiling Venus in Leo. The moon in Gemini sextiling Venus in Leo, even though Mars and Jupiter are there with the moon is past those things. So Wednesday morning could be pretty nice. But then the moon is moving into a square with Neptune. So that's, again, the moon wants to connect. Neptune wants to make everything vague and you can't put your finger on it. And you could still produce something inspiring or romantic connection experiences, but they will be hard to come by easily. There will be something like frustrating about most of the rest of Wednesday until the moon moves into Cancer around 8 p.m. Pacific time. So Wednesday night, Mercury's day, could be like the moon in Cancer is about feeling good and the moon is applying to a sextile with Mercury in Virgo. So that's Mercury exalted, although Mercury is stationing. Wednesday strikes me as a time to have a heart to heart. You're going to revisit it later in a few weeks, like in September. And then Thursday, the only aspect Pacific time that's happening on Thursday is the moon sextiling Mercury in Virgo, but that happens like in the wee hours, so it's more of a Wednesday night thing. But we do have Venus applying to a square with Uranus. So Friday, that happens Friday morning, like around 6 a.m. Pacific time. Venus is applying to a square with Uranus. So again, this is volatile, and we keep having these flashbangs happening. Mars conjoined Uranus in Taurus, the Donald Trump shooting, and we had the CrowdStrike thing, and then Mercury squared Uranus in Taurus at the same degree, which is on Algol, and we had the announcements about the current sitting US president endorsing Kamala Harris as the candidate moving forward. All of Thursday, basically, and Friday morning, but all of this week up until this point, and sometimes the things manifest a little before or after. Much of the week before Friday, watch out for wanting to pick a fight and look at July 15th and July 21st to see the chain of events in your own life, what those things are connected to in terms of what might manifest, especially Thursday and early Friday, but all of the week in general. Venus squaring Uranus, like anything squaring Uranus, but it's Venus squaring Uranus in a fixed sign, Venus in Leo, Uranus and Taurus. Anything, it's bending and breaking. There's a collision of how these two signs want to do something, maybe the same thing in a different way, that could just break the whole thing. Or it could be a vigorously wild and exciting, almost dangerously wild and exciting signature. But there's a lot of excitement, a lot of impatience, and potentially a lot of spending. The moon trining Saturn on Friday, right around the same time, might help with calming down this, because the moon's also making a sextile to Uranus later that night. So the stuff the moon is activating might have the potential to smooth it over, but it might just be different parts of your life lighting up. The moon trining Saturn is a different sector, and that might have something to say about what's going on with the Venus-Uranus thing. Friday's maybe complicated, especially with the moon then applying to Neptune in Pisces. Some numbing, soothing, with Saturn saying no to things and putting up some boundaries, and Neptune smoothing things over maybe a little too much, but it might be needed. So that's an interesting counterbalance to the Venus-Uranus situation. Saturday, the moon moves into Leo, and Saturday night is the dark moon, the waning dark moon in Leo. It goes exact early, around 4:30 a.m. Pacific time on Sunday. And there's Saturday's a gauntlet. The moon opposes Pluto in Aquarius and sextiles Mars in Gemini. So it's a little like out of the frying pan and into the fire, but in a potentially constructive way. And this dark moon in Leo marks the end of an energy expenditure that culminated on January 25th with the full moon in Leo. So think about what was going on then. That was like something had come to fruition, and now all of that, now you can be like, okay, I did all that from August 2023 up through January, end of January 24. What did I build up through then where I like got to a pinnacle of some sort? And then you like rode that wave in that area of your life that Leo signifies, the sign of Leo. If you know your rising sign. If you don't know your rising sign, I still have a free course on how to read your own chart at voyage.earth. I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep it up. So now this dark moon in Leo, you can be like, all that happened. I did all that. Is there anything I want to change? Or like, how can I step into a new paradigm or an evolved way of doing things in this part of my life? And it's in the middle of Leo. So it has something to do with the image we project, what we are seen for. Leo is ruled by the sun, so that's what's visible. You can see that in your chart by wherever the sun is in your chart, whatever house that is. That's probably what most people see. Or if you have a planet in Leo, whatever that planet signifies, that's very apparent. The sun is things that are visible and apparent, and the moon is things that are concealed and also incubating. So we have both those things. We have an opportunity to incubate a new way of being seen and a new way of guiding and coordinating whatever kingdom is ours, whatever is ours to do. The Leo part of your life is a place that you have access to leadership, and where the sun is in your chart is going to have a lot to say about that. But this dark moon allows you to a moment of recalibration before launching into a new roughly 6-month period, like building up to the next full moon in February of 2025. And there could be some optimism around it. The moon is sextile Jupiter in Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury stationing. So there might be like, oh, I want to do this, and then it maybe doesn't. The path is winding. It might not go like up through February, like the energy and momentum might not build in the way that you think it's going to. And sometimes that's a part of life. You can't possibly understand everything about what must happen to you. I know from being an astrologer that a lot of trying to understand everything and to intellectualize everything is a fool's errand and a waste of time. It's a waste of this precious human life. So why are you watching this? Go outside. Anyway, Sunday, we have that sextile to Jupiter at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So Sunday morning is maybe like full of that optimism, which might be a little like half-baked or not, maybe like overblown. And then Venus moves into Virgo. So no more Venus in Leo. That was like triumphant and warm and delightful and showy. Now I have Venus in Virgo again, which is just always a very different vibe. Always takes the wind out of Venus and Leo. There'll be like moving forward, Venus matters of enjoyment and relation will have a critical eye, and that could be good. That could be like holding people to standards, but that could also go overboard to perfectionism. But you also have opportunities to see things that need attention and attend to them. It is maybe not the most warm and fuzzy way of experiencing and giving the nice things in the world, but that is the way right now. And some things are going to need attention. And then at night, around 10 at night Pacific time, Mercury stations retrograde. And that's the end of the week. Next week begins with Mercury is retrograde. And watch what you say. Love everyone and tell the truth. And remember your Wi-Fi is a camera that can see through walls.